Kathy Fletcher. I'm going to talk about a roadmap for the Education Highway. This project is about education and the open web. Specifically, we want to build a roadmap to an education highway that is built from two things. First, the open web that makes finding and sharing information and learning fast, efficient, and ubiquitous. Second, living libraries of teaching and learning materials that can be adapted, improved, and combined. Highways connect cities and people and make larger social networks and commerce possible. An education highway is the same idea. Education is a basic necessity for innovating, creating, and expanding economies and cultures. A whole community of educators, learners, foundations, organizations, and education institutions have been creating this highway and making living libraries of teaching and learning that can be shared, adapted, and improved. MIT OpenCourseware got the ball rolling by convincing MIT faculty to share their courses and put every course online. Wikipedia showed that a high-quality encyclopedia could be written by amateurs and experts all over the world. Connections built a repository or library where anybody could write a lesson, a chapter of a textbook, a journal article, or a complete textbook and share it with the rest of the world. The Khan Academy provides short videos of worked examples to teach entire subject areas in math, science, and history using 3 to 5 minute videos showing a problem. CK12 and Flat World Knowledge are publishers that publish shareable textbooks. This is just a small sample of the projects creating open education resources. Now imagine the ecosystem of tools and services that can flourish around this education highway of living libraries. For instance, we can translate learning materials that come from the open libraries rather than starting from scratch. And then those translations can be published back to the living library, connecting them with the originals that they came from. Faculty using an open textbook from Connections or CK12 or Flat World Knowledge can contribute their lecture slides so that other faculty can reuse and adapt the lecture slides when they adopt the same textbook from the open libraries. Curriculum specialists can review teaching and learning materials from the libraries, link them to learning objectives and education standards, and add their stamp of approval or endorsement so that teachers know that the quality is good. The endorsements and standards can also be published back to the libraries and stay with the materials they endorse. Virtual schools and networks of peers and study groups can teach and give credit using materials that originally came from the open libraries. They can give credit for learning accomplished, and they can also contribute back course materials to the open library. The services and software that are using the open textbooks and courses and videos and simulations need a way to interact with the libraries that are housing the open education resources. They need an application programming interface, or API, for talking to the libraries, especially for publishing new content to the libraries. The API needs to take into account the things that are special about open education resource libraries. Things like licenses, how the content can be used and shared. Things like credit, how to connect authors, translators, and editors with the open content that they create, that they change, and that they edit. And also, things like derived copies. How to show when a new adaptation came from an original source in one of the libraries. This is part of the magic of this whole system, the ability to change and adapt and translate and improve content for education. And things like IDs, how to find and name things so that they're around for posterity and can be reused. So what is the plan to create this application programming interface that will allow the tools to talk to the libraries? Step 1. Work with people and projects that have OER repositories to design the application programming interface. Investigate existing publishing APIs to come up with the simplest API that will get the job done. Most likely we'll build on existing APIs and just expand them for open education repositories. Step 2. Implement the API in Connections so we have a reference API that anyone can use. Why Connections? 2 reasons. 1. Connections Global Repository and the software for creating new ones is open for anyone to use. Authors can publish into Connections and developers can use their own instance of Connections. 2. Connections content is remixable. What does remixable mean? That means that you can take content and mix and match to make new stuff, and it all looks like it belongs and fits together. So, how is Connections remixable? First, it is licensed for sharing and adapting. Just give proper credit to the authors, and you can reuse their materials and make new adaptations. Second, it is sized for sharing and adapting. It's hard to adapt an entire textbook. You probably just want part of it, and you might want to use that part in different ways. Once in a beginning topic, and again in a more advanced treatment. Connections has modules and collections. Modules are topics, sections, chapters, lessons, etc. that can be used to combine and make books, courses, journals, etc. One module can be in many different collections, which is great for reuse. Improvements to the module are immediately available to all collections that include it, if they want the improvements. Third, content is formatted for sharing. Semantic XML makes it easy to combine different modules into a collection and they all look like they belong together. The semantic XML is what powers the remixability. This engineering textbook was written by 8 different authors who each just contributed one module. And yet when you look inside, it all flows together nicely as if it was written as a single textbook. That's semantic XML at work. Semantic XML also allows you to write the book once and yet have it available in many different forms, as a physical book, as a PDF you download to your computer, reading it online on your computer, using your electronic reader, or even on your cell phone. Okay, back to step 3 of the plan for this project. We have the API, and we have a reference implementation of the API in Connections, which everyone can use. Step 3 is to build a tool or service in the ecosystem that shows the power of the API and attracts lots of authors to contribute content to open education libraries. It could be a side-by-side translation tool. It could be a lecture importer. We will decide what the tool will be together as part of this project. Finally, I'd like to thank my cameraman and my graphic artist.